Hey guys, Shivadeep here from Dreamkill Studio. I'm a self-trained fashion photographer and I've done many portfolios and commercial shoots for different brands in the last few years. I have shot over like thousands of photos and have experienced many years of editing fashion images. When it comes to shooting fashion, editing the photos comes as an integral part of it. Editing photos in the most professional way needs knowledge and patience. Trust me, done in the right way though, you can do it faster and more efficiently. One of the many challenges that I personally faced in the beginning was asking a question to myself: what should I edit first in my photo? Is it the hair, the skin, the background? I believe many of us have come across situations where you feel, okay, I should have edited this first, now I must go back and edit my photo all over again to make the corrections. So this is one of the problem that I have faced myself last few years of editing so many photos. I have made a method for myself which I strictly follow to make my workflow much easier. So without any further delay, I'm going to tell you the 10 best steps that I follow while editing my portraits in Adobe Photoshop to get the best result. I'm just going to give you a disclaimer here. Make sure you just consider these steps as a checklist as well. You may or may not need to do certain steps for your photos. Also, please note that this tutorial is not about teaching you how to edit your photos, rather than telling you a right approach to go about editing the photos, especially the portraits that you have in Adobe Photoshop. These steps are divided into 3 main sections. First is the cleanup, second is the background edit, and third is the lighting and retouching. These 3 sections individually contains different parts of editing your photos. Before we move into that, I believe you can see my screen. So this is the final image that I have created. I have already done the editing on this photo, as you can see. I'm going to use this photo as a base to explain each step on the process, how you should go about editing the portraits of yours in Adobe Photoshop. To explain the steps, I'm going to take you through the raw image of this photo step by step so that you understand what I have done and what you need to do before you proceed on making the final result from editing the photos that you have. So here is the raw image of my photo. This photo was taken by me last year. As you can see, this photo is not very appealing when I see straight out of the camera right now. Before I proceed, the first thing that you need to do is compose your image right. So you can see this image looks pretty okay, the composition is pretty okay, but I feel there is a little bit of extra gap at the top of this image. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to crop it slightly so that her face lies in the power line of the rule of third composition. This makes the photo more appealing and draws the attention of your viewer right onto the face and the eyes of this model. Once you have done the first step, that is composing your image, we go to the next step. We'll start up with the cleaning phase. When we come to the cleaning, you need to take care of 4 important things. Some may be applied, some may not be. It's a subjective matter. From photos to photos, it's going to matter a lot. Fixing the hair makes a huge difference on the final look of your photo. Here you can see I have edited the hair to make it look more cleaner. I have fixed all the stray hair that was there, then I have cleaned up the hair so that it looks a little more clean overall and looks more interesting. Once you have done this, we go to the next step, that is the depth of field. As I have said before, you may or may not need the depth of field for your photo. It is a subjective matter. If you have already taken a good photo with a nice depth of field of your subject, then you may not need that. In my case, I felt I could have a little fake depth of field look, a shallow depth of field look onto my portrait to make it look a little more interesting. So here I have applied the depth of field around my subject. As you can see, this follows the depth of field from the hair, the front section of the hair till the back side. It applies for her body as well. Once you have done fixing the depth of field, if it is required in your photo, we go into making some changes in the posture. This is also again a subjective matter. You may or may not want to do this thing. In my photo, I felt like I could give a little bit of change on the posture so that her back is a little more curvier and the tummy is a little tucked in. Also, the jawline was sticking out because she turned her head 90 degree from her body, so I just fixed that a little bit. So this is where I've made the changes for the posture. Once you have done this step, you go to the last step of cleanup, that is fixing any kind of clothing defects that you might have. In this step, I have cleaned up wrinkles that was there before, as you can see, before and after image. Once I have done cleaning up, my photo is ready for the next phase. I strongly recommend that you go for any kind of background edit after you're done with the cleanup phase, because as you can see, I have made a change in the background color. You might also want to composite with a different background altogether. It's up to you. But this step of changing the background to a color or any other image is very crucial at this point, because if you don't do the cleanup beforehand, you might come into a problem later on where you might want to make some changes onto the hair, the body or anything. And as you know, to edit the background, you always need to make a mask of your subject, and this is where the problem arises. As you can see, I have already masked out my model here to change the background. See what happens if I want to make some change onto the posture later on my editing. So if I go to, let's say, liquify and make any kind of changes, so this is just for demo purpose, you can see the mask is going to get affected, and this is not what I want in the later stage of my editing. So this will create a problem. Hence, you should always follow these particular steps that I have told you. First, do all the cleanup that is required, and then you go for the background editing. You make the masks right, and then you can change the background to whatever you want to get the best result. After you're done with the background editing, is ready for all the lighting and the retouching that needs to be done on the subject. This is the aesthetic part of your editing, the most interesting part. So this section I have named it as the lighting and retouching part. This is where I fix all the lighting of my subject if necessary, and I do all the cosmetic changes in these steps. How I go forward into doing that is, first I generally fix all the lighting that is required for the subject here. As you can see, I made some changes under the highlights, the dodges and burns and shadows here. This makes the photo more appealing for the viewer to see. We can see the lighting that is falling off on her face, on her hand and on her hair, the body. It makes a huge difference. So this is the before and this is the after. Once we are done with the lighting, we are going to go ahead and do the skin retouching. Let me zoom in a little bit. So skin retouching, there are a lot of different tutorials on how to do a skin retouch. If you really want to know how I did all these steps, you can comment in the video below and I would be happy to address any of your queries, or if you want to know each of these steps were done, I can make probably some future tutorials on that as well. So next thing I did after the lighting fix was the skin retouch. I have retouched all the skin, the facial hair, the wrinkles below the eye, and everything was fixed in this step. Even for the body, I have cleaned up to make it more professional to look at. And once this is done, I generally go about doing the last section of my editing, that is all the cosmetic details. For my model here, I wanted to change the eye color and to fix the lip color and do a little bit of facial color retouch. So this is where all the cosmetic details changes have been done. So once this is done, your photo is now ready for your deployment. You can save at this point in time. However, I would suggest you can complete your photo by adding some color grading to it and making the final touch. So I have applied a really simple gradient map to overall make the photo look more appealing in the final stage. So here I have applied a little cool tone to the overall image, so you can see the before and after the before and after. I hope this tutorial has helped you today to understand the steps that you need to follow one by one to get into the final retouching or final editing of your portraits in Adobe Photoshop. Let me know if I have missed out anything. I would be really happy to address that in my future videos. And if you have any suggestion and comments, please go below and comment your things there. I would really love to read it through. Probably some of you might be wondering, this was not the final image that I have seen. Yes, you're right. So for this tutorial, I just made up till this point. After making all these changes, I just went a step ahead to give my photo a little bit more dynamic look to it by adding a little gradient at the background. The overall editing for the model here is the same, just that I have added a different gradient color to the background here to make it a little more interesting. I hope this video is going to help you edit your photos in a more systematic way. Leave a thumbs up if you like this video and subscribe for more upcoming ones. Oh, and do not forget to click the bell icon to catch all our updates. See you in the next video.